Welcome to the Medical Nursing Unit, Topic 2, Disorders of Cardiovascular System. Let's see ischemic heart disease. When we say ischemia, this is a temporary deprivation of the blood supply in any part of organism. So on the heart also, maybe we know that the heart is supplied itself by the coronary artery. So we will stay ischemia when there is a temporary deprivation of the blood supply in the heart. Coronary artery disease, most of the time it's called atherosclerosis. The coronary artery disease is defined as any vascular disorder that narrows or occludes the coronary arteries. The most common cause of coronary obstruction is atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis, this is a condition in which fat accumulates in the artery lumen and reduce or occlude the artery. The risk factors for atherosclerosis: hypertension, cigarette smoking, hyperlipidemia, diabetes mellitus, family history of premature chronic heart disease, lifestyle risk factors: obesity, physical inactivity, or sedentary life, enterogenic diet. Also, enterogenic, this is the diet containing many fat. What are the signs and symptoms? So for myocardial ischemia, we see the chest pain, pressure, heaviness, squeezing, tightness for 5 minutes, and this pain is radiated to the jaw, back, or arm, or can at rest after exercises or stress, which increases oxygen demand on the heart. We can see also shortness of breath and tachycardia, increased anxiety resulting from decreased oxygen to cardiac muscle, sweating, what we call diaphoresis, caused by anxiety and increased cardiac workload. Clinical manifestation of atherosclerosis: acute onset of chest pain, described as pressure tightness, may radiate to jaw, neck, and arm. Angina pectoris, it is called chest pain brought by myocardial ischemia. Symptoms may be typical or atypical: nausea, vomiting, weakness, diaphoresis, cool extremities, feeling of impending doom. The diaphoresis, this is called sweating. Diagnosis tests for ischemic disease: angiography with a coronary arteriography, and the complication is myocardial ischemia, myocardial infarction, and heart attack. Let's see myocardial ischemia. This is a temporary deprivation of blood supply in myocardium. The cause is the coronary atherosclerosis. That is the main cause. We have said that the atherosclerosis, this is accumulation of the fat in the lumen of the arteries. Dynamic obstruction, the spasm and the constriction of the coronary arteries may also cause myocardial ischemia. Means what? This is the condition in which there will be a reduction in blood supply in any part of the any heart muscle, myocardium. This is temporary deprivation of the blood supply in myocardium. It's called myocardial ischemia. How is about, you see on this image? You see on this image, how is it now? What can we say about this? We can see here. Now this is the artery. This is the artery, and this is the accumulation of the fat. As the fat accumulated, they reduce the remain of the artery. So as they accumulate, they tend to obstruct the artery remain. So they reduce the blood supply, and sometimes they can even close completely. That will be called infarction. You can see now, if there is some occlusion in this area, you can see this part, it doesn't have the blood. This is the temporary deprivation of the blood supply in this area. The clinical manifestation of myocardial ischemia: individual with reversible myocardial ischemia present clinically in severe ways what you call stable angina or angina pectoris. This is the chest pain caused by myocardial ischemia. It is lasting approximately 3 to 5 minutes and occur after exercises or stress and is relieved by rest or nitrates. Now, you can see if you will see the client presenting such symptoms, the chest pain that lasts approximately 3 to 5 minutes and occur after exercises or stress, and that pain can be relieved by the rest or nitrate, that will be defined by stable angina. It is the manifestation of myocardial ischemia. We have unstable angina. Chest pain occur at night, rest with increasing intensity and duration, and is not relieved by rest. It is slow to respond to nitrate. Here, this is different to stable angina that can occur after exercises. But this unstable angina, the pain occurs at night, even at rest, with increasing intensity, and that can not be relieved by rest. Presbymentals or vasospastic angina. This is chest pain occur at night at rest with minimal exertion. When we say a vasospastic angina, the client will feel chest pain at night at rest with minimal exertion. When he do some activities, which now he can feel the pain. Silent ischemia and mental stress induced ischemia. Stress can cause a coronary vasoconstriction and uses myocardial ischemia that is painless. This is silent ischemia. This is ischemia that comes without pain. Let's see myocardial infarction. The myocardial infarction is the necrosis of the myocardium related to lack of oxygen in cardiac muscle due to interruption of coronary blood flow for an extended period of time. We have seen that in ischemia there is a temporary deprivation of blood supply. But here, when there is a lack of oxygen in cardiac muscle due to interruption of the coronary blood flow, let's give an example. When the atherosclerosis completely obstructs the the coronary artery, there will be a total absence of oxygen in the distal part. That part will become necrosed. That will be called infarction. There are too many types of myocardial infarction, what you call no Q wave infarction and the Q wave infarction. This is for specialists now. It is not on our level. We can see how it can be manifested here. You can see we have an occlusion here. Where we have an occlusion, now the blood, there is a total absence of the blood in this part, so there is a necrosis, the tissue necrosis. Yeah. The clinical manifestation of myocardial infarction is sudden severe chest pain. The pain is more severe and more persistent and is not relieved by nitrate or rest. while in the ischemia, the nitrate can act and the rest can sometimes relieve the pain. But in the infarction, the pain is very sudden now. It is abrupt and it is sudden and it is very severe. It may be described as heavy and crushing, such as a trunk sitting on your chest. It is very heavy, as a trunk sitting on your chest, radiating to the neck, jaw, back, shoulder, or left arm. If you will see a client with a sudden severe chest pain with such characteristics, heavy now, is very heavy now, like a trunk sitting on the chest, and with radiation to the neck, jaw, back, shoulder, or left arm, we will define the myocardial infarction. We can see the fever and the blood pressure will decrease, and the tachycardia, abnormal extra heart sound, reflect left ventricular dysfunction, and pericardial friction lab. Diagnostic measures: leukocytosis. This is elevation of the white blood cells, elevated sedimentation rate, hypoxemia in individual not given supplemental oxygen. Yeah, hypoxemia, this is low concentration in oxygen in the blood. Transient rise in the plasma enzyme level can confirm the occurrence of myocardial infarction and indicate its severity. Those enzymes include creatine kinase, lactic dehydrogenase, and are produced by necrotic cardiac tissues. ECG, ST segment and T waves change in case of ischemia and injury, and return to normal as the myocardium heals. In case of necrosis, the Q waves change and generally persist. And the treatment, the hospitalization and give aspirin, and you can give the oxygen supplement in the case of hypoxemia, and you can give beta blockers and morphine for chest pain. You can give also nitroglycerin. Complications: dysarrhythmia will occur, a left ventricular failure, pericarditis, organic brain syndrome, rupture of heart structure, rupture of wall of infarcted ventricles, infections around septal structure, systemic thromboembolism, pulmonary emboli, or DVT. Sudden death also may occur. Let's see hypertension. Hypertension is caused by increase in cardiac output or total peripheral resistance, or both. Pathophysiology. Hypertension results from a sustained increase in peripheral resistance, arterial vasoconstriction, and increase in circulating blood volume, or both. Chronic hypertension damages the wall of systemic blood vessels. Those are the two conditions related to hypertension: increase in cardiac output and the total peripheral resistance. When I say the total peripheral resistance, means what? There will be a vasoconstriction, there will be a reduction, a decrease of artery lumen. It is the decrease of the lumen. Yeah. Most of the time they say the hypertension is related to the fat deposit or sodium in the tank. Yeah, how it causes the hypertension. You see how the fat deposits deposit on the wall of the vessels. They accumulate and reduce the lumen. That will increase peripheral resistance. While the sodium, the much sodium in the blood brings by osmotic pressure, the they bring the water from extravascular and increase the blood volume. What a pathophysiology. Hypertension or high blood pressure is a disease of vascular regulation resulting from malfunction of arteries pressure control mechanisms. Those are the central nervous system, renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, extracellular fluid volume. Those are the mechanisms that control the blood pressure. This is central nervous system, and renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, extracellular fluid volume. Those mechanisms regulate the blood pressure. The cause is unknown, and there is no cure. The basic explanation is that blood pressure is elevated when there is increased cardiac output plus increased peripheral vascular resistance. Blood pressure classification. We will say the count is having normal when systolic blood pressure is under 120, but also diastolic blood pressure is over 80, is under 80 millimeter of the mercury. Prehypertension is in between 120 to 139 systolic blood pressure and 80 to 89 diastolic blood pressure. We define stage 1 hypertension when the count represents 140 to 159 and 90 to 99. Stage 2 hypertension is over or equal to 160 and over to 100 diastolic blood pressure. Stage 3 hypertension is over or equal to 180 and over and equal to 100 to 110 diastolic blood pressure. This is the classification of the blood pressure. Okay, we can see on this image how we can define the blood pressure. You can see the ideal, the low blood pressure. You can see ideal blood pressure, pre-high blood pressure, and high blood pressure. Primary hypertension. What is the primary hypertension? The primary hypertension is the result of an extremely interaction in genetic and the environmental factors. This will be called primary hypertension. Is when the client will develop the hypertension without associated other pathologies. So this is interaction with environment and the genetic factors. The pathogenesis of primary hypertension include overactivity of the sympathetic nervous system, overactivity of renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, salt and water retention by the kidney, hormonal inhibition of sodium potassium transport across cells or in the kidney and blood vessels, a complex interaction involving insulin resistance and endothelial function, and or all of these mechanisms may play a role in primary hypertension. Okay, let's explain the renin-angiotensin system. Now, this is the system of compensatory mechanisms that regulate the blood volume. How it works? Normally, there is a constant blood volume that should arrive and be filtrated on the nephrons. When the blood volume reduced, the blood that reaches the kidney is reduced, the kidney will be stimulated, sensitized, and will release, can see here, donc drop in the blood pressure or drop in the volume. For instance, when there is maybe a dehydration or bleeding, they drop in the blood pressure. You can see here, and the kidney will be sensitized and release renin. The renin, this is the enzyme now. The renin, this is the hormone that's secreted by the cortex on the kidney will be released from the kidney. Now, we release by the kidney, then they go through the blood circulation and reach on the liver. After reaching the liver, in the liver, they will meet with angiotensinogen, and they will form. Renin acts on angiotensinogen to form angiotensin 1. Yes. Okay. Renin released by the kidney will meet with angiotensinogen released by liver, and the renin acts on angiotensinogen to form angiotensin 1, and will continue in the blood circulation until in the lungs, where they will meet with the angiotensin converting enzyme. This is released from the lungs, and the angiotensin 1 will be converted into angiotensin 2. Okay, donc the angiotensin 1 is converted by the enzymes, angiotensin converting enzymes in the lungs. Now it becomes angiotensin 2. So angiotensin 2 will act on the adrenal glands to stimulate the release of aldosterone, and aldosterone acts on the kidney to stimulate the absorption of the salt and the water to increase the blood volume. And angiotensin also can act directly on the blood vessel, stimulating vasoconstriction, narrowing. So they will be narrowing to increase the blood volume or to increase the resistance of the vessels. Okay, this is a system of blood volume regulation in our body. I don't know if it explained. When I try to repeat again, normally, in normal ways, this is compensatory mechanisms that regulate the blood volume. When there is a deplete in the blood volume, the kidney will be sensitized and release the renin. And the renin will meet with angiotensinogen in the liver to form angiotensin 1. Angiotensin 1, when they arrive in the lungs, the lungs, they will meet with the angiotensin converting enzyme to form angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 will act on the adrenal gland to stimulate the release of aldosterone. And we know very well aldosterone stimulates the absorption of sodium and the water in the tubules now of the kidney. Okay, also here angiotensin 2 can directly act on the vessels and stimulate vasoconstriction. We remember that in normal ways, on the kidney, the water are eliminated with the sodium, and the sodium will be reabsorbed, and the way the absorption of the salt will go with the water and prevent hypovolemia. Is how the renin-angiotensin system work. Risk factors of primary hypertension: the family history, advancing age, cigarette smoking, obesity, heavy alcohol consumption, high dietary sodium intake, low dietary intake of potassium, glucose intolerance, stress, sedentarism, and pregnancy. Those are the factors that can contribute in primary hypertension. Complication of primary hypertension: atherosclerotic coronary artery disease, myocardial ischemia, heart failure, stroke, cerebral hemorrhage or cerebral ischemia, aortic aneurysm, retinovascular sclerosis, gangrene of extremities. Secondary hypertension. Secondary hypertension is caused by a systemic disease process that raises peripheral vascular resistance or cardiac output. The causes: renovascular disease, renoparenchymal disease, adrenocortical tumors, adrenomedullary tumors, and some drugs. So secondary hypertension, we understand that is a hypertension is that from another pathology. The clinical manifestation of secondary hypertension, most patients with hypertension have no specific symptoms referable to the blood pressure elevation. Headache generally occurs only in patients with severe hypertension. Characteristically, a hypertensive headache occurs in the morning and is localized to the occipital region. Yeah. In the beginning, you will hear the client complaining the head in the morning and localized into the occipital region, where we define hypertension. Other non-specific symptoms include dizziness, palpitations, easy fatigability, and weakness. When symptoms are present, they are generally related to hypertensive cardiovascular disease or to manifestation of secondary hypertension. Diagnosis: how to do repeated blood pressure measurement, complete blood count, urinalysis, biochemical blood exam. Management of hypertension: lifestyle modification is the basic prevention measures and even act or assist in management of hypertension. So the lifestyle modification are weight reduction, dietary salt reduction, moderation of alcohol consumption, and physical activity. Medications: can use drug therapy is recommended for individual with blood pressure over 140 systole over 90 diastole millimeter for the mercury. Low dose thiazide diuretics are often used as first-line agents alone or in combination with the other antihypertensive drugs. Okay, those drugs we will see in the special pharmacology. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Murakoze cyane. Mukomeze mutere inkunga iyi channel, mukanda kuri subscribe ndetse no kunzogera kugira ngo ibindi bikurikira mujye mubibona uwo mwanya igihe tubishyizeho.